Namaste and good morning. Let's start the class with the mantras. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhava Swaha, Tatsavitra Varenayam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Diyo Yo Nah Prachodayat, Astoma Satgamya, Tamso Ma Jyotirgamya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamya. ओम सहनावतु सहना भुनक्तु सवीर्यं करवावहि तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहि ओम शांति 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 ओम. In this class we are studying Kathopanishad and we are towards the end of our first chapter. There are two chapters, each chapter has 3 sections, so this is the third section of the first chapter. And in this chapter, an elegy of the chariot was given, which we study in Bhagavad Gita also. And Bhagavad Gita was written after Kathopanishad. So if you want to know which was first, so Kathopanishad was first. And then there is a very important message over here in the verse 14 we learned last time. He's telling us to get up, get awakened, go to a guru, learn. And what do we need to learn? We need to realize the Atma. We need to know who are we. And he said, how are you going to know it? By purifying your mind, by keeping this body healthy, by sharpening your intellect and making your intellect subtle also. And then doing some seva also. So a lot of detailed instructions we have gotten from this chapter. So Uttishta Jagrat Prapya Varani Bodhat. That is our mantra. Kshurasya Dhara Nishita Duratyaha Durgam Patha Tatkavya. He says the wise people say that. The people who have realized themselves, they are saying it. So us students, we need to follow these instructions if we want to know who we are. There's no other way. This is the way, according to the Upanishads. So now towards the end of this chapter, verse number 16 and 17, let's look at 16. Nachiketam upakhyanam mrityu proktam sanatanam uktvaha shrutvaha cha medhavi brahmaloke mahiyate. Nachiketam, that of Nachiketa. And Nachiketa is the name of this young boy who is only 8 or 9 years of age. Upakhyanam, the story. Mrityu proktam, told by the Lord of Death. Sanatanam, the ancient. Uktava, having related, Uktava. Shrutva, having heard. Cha means and, Medhavi, the intelligent one. Brahmaloke, in the world of Brahma. Mahiyate, is glorified. The intelligent one, having heard and related this ancient story of Nachiketa, as told by Lord of Death, is glorified in the world of Brahma. World of Brahma means the realized people, the wise people. These statements are often pronounced with a view to encourage us. Okay, because we are studying, we want to become wise. We are studying because we want to know who we are. So this is a technique towards the end of a chapter, when all the discourse has been given. He is giving us a brief statement where he is glorifying the Upanishad. So this verses 16 and 17 is a glorification of these teachings. Because if we don't have a love for something which we are studying, we are not going to relate to it. When we don't relate to it, we definitely won't practice it. So that is the reason. These Upanishadic seers, they always glorify the scriptures. We saw that in Bhagavad Gita also. We see it in every Upanishad. So last verse, number 17. Ya imam paramam guhyam shravyet brahm samsiddhi prayatah shrad kale tada anantyay kalpate tada anantyay kalpate iti. Ya means who? Imam. This means this story. Paramam, highest. Guhyam, secret. So that means very profound, very subtle. Shravyet, repeats. Brahma Samsiddhi, before the assembly of the Brahmans. That means the wise people. Prayata, with devotion. Shrad Kale, at the time of the Shrad ceremony. And what is a Shrad ceremony? The time of the year when we remember our ancestors. We thank our ancestors. So these kind of stories, the learned people tell. What are we supposed to do? What is the goal of life? Va means or, tada means then, anantyaye, for immortality. Kalpate is made fit. Tada antyaye kalpate iti, then he is fit to obtain immortality. This is also a style. Last part of the verse gets repeated. And this is an indication that this is the end of the chapter. Because remember, all this knowledge was not written before. It was passed orally. And when orally somebody is telling you and they repeat towards the end, that means this is the end of it. So that's why this was the tradition. So then at the end it says, Iti Kathopanishad pratham adhyaye tritya vale. So that means this is the end of the third section of the first chapter. So whoever with devotion recites. Okay, ya imam paramam guhyam shravyet. So whoever with the devotion recites before an assembly of the Brahmins or at the time of the Shrad ceremony of the forefathers, this highest secret obtains thereby immortality, obtains immortality. Okay, anantyaya kalpate. So do not get confused with this statement to mean that it's like what it says directly, that just by reading it, even with the devotion, just by reading it, you are going to attain immortality. Because immortality cannot be gained by merely reading some textbooks. However great those textbooks may be, reading alone does not do it. Knowledge alone is the cure for ignorance, though. When we read something with faith, knowledge enters. And then when the knowledge is there, that means the light has entered, ignorance ends. And that's how you attain the samadhi. In samadhi, you see your real nature, your own savrupa. The nature of the self alone, swarupa. And that swarupa, or experience of the swarupa, can end the delusion which is created by the egocentric false identification. Okay, so studying is important, listening is important, understanding is important. Then after that, practicing what he's saying. Remember what he told us to practice in this particular chapter also. Very clearly, he gave us the instructions. So if we do that also, then of course, we will become immortal. And immortal means you will know, you will recognize who you are. Because Atma is immortal. But we identify with our body. We identify with our name and the fame. That is not immortal. That can never be immortal. Immortal is only the Atma, Swarupa. So this ends this chapter. So now chapter 2 and first section in that. And the same philosophy continues. So Lord of Death, explaining it further. प्रांचिः खानिः वृतनाथ स्वयंभू तस्मात् प्रांग पश्यति न अंतरात्मना कश्चित धीरा प्रत्यगात्मनम एकशत आवृत चक्षु अमृतवम इच्छन. Pranchi, going outward. Khani, the senses. Vyatrinat, reflected with the or created with the defects. Swambhu, creator. Tasmat, therefore. Prang, external universe, outward. Pashyati, beholds. Na antaratmana, not the internal self. Kaschit, some. Dhiraha, wise people. Pratyag atmanam. Pratyag means innermost. The atma within. Pratyag atmanam. Ekshat, sees. Avrit, turned inside. Chakshu, eyes. Amritvam, immortality. Icchan, being desirous of. Having a icha, desire. So self-existent created the senses with outgoing tendencies. So that is the nature of our senses, to go outwardly. Therefore, man beholds the external universe and not the internal self, the Atma. So with the eyes, we want to see the beauty outside. With the ears, we want to hear the sound outside. He says that's how the Creator created it. But only some wise people, desirous of immortality, with eyes averted. So that means turned within, pratyagatmana. So that's like a senses turned inward from sensual objects, see the Atma within. Okay, so it's just like a senses which are automatically they want to go outside. We are just controlling them. We are shutting them. Because Atma, the self, is right inside. So this is like an opening verse of this part of this Upanishad. He is basically explaining the sorrows and the limitations of this worldly life to us. And he is also telling us very directly what the wise people, what kind of a path they walk on. How did they attain? What they attained? So the God, the creator, has created the sense organs with a powerful tendency to go outward into the lustful fields of their individual sense objects. It is given there. That's why it's very, very hard to control our senses. But still, there are some people, a rare few, they can control them. They can control their sense organs, and this is the only way we'll know ourselves. Because when the desire is to see myself, then I will do whatever it takes, and this is the sadhana. So from here we can see that unless a sadhak, the seeker, has come to feel an irresistible urge to know the self, to experience the self, unless that desire is there, burning desire, we won't do this kind of a sadhana. So few people, they have that, and we can be among those few. But we definitely need a moral courage, intellectual conviction also. Because if our intellect says, no, there's nothing inside here, everything is outside. Let the senses roam outside. I can find pleasure there. So that means intellect is not convinced yet. So intellectual conviction is needed. Calmness of the mind is needed. And you need a spiritual nerve to dam the outward flow of your indriyas, the senses. Okay, turning those senses, going outwardly to inwardly, and that is what's called pratyahar in Rishi Patanjali's language. Pratyahar, turn the senses inward. Okay, towards the very source, the Atma. But sure, these kind of people are rare. Even Lord of Death is saying that. So it's a beautiful verse. He is summarizing in this verse the cause for the disease of death. And he is telling us the remedy also. Death over really means coming and going again and again. Anytime we have come into this manifested world, death is there. Anybody who's born will die also. So that's why I'm saying it's a cause for the disease of death. And then he's prescribing the remedy so that we don't have to come here again and die again. Okay. Let me tell you, this is the most quoted mantra of Kathopanishad. Most quoted. प्राचः का मान अनुयंति बाला ते मृत्युः यन्ति हि वित तस्य पाशम् अथ धीरः अमृतत्वं विदित्वा ध्रुवम् अध्रुवेषुः इह न प्रार्थयन्ते. प्राचः, external. Kaman, pleasures. Anuyanti, pursue. Bala, children. Te means they. Mrityu, of death. Yantihi, go or pull into. Vittasya, widespread. Pasham, the snares or the binds. Pasham. Ath, but dhiraha, the wise person. Amritvam, immortality. Viditva, having known. Dhruvam, what is eternal? Adhruveshuhu, among the mortal things. Ih, in this world. Na prathyantehe, do not desire. He says the ignorant or childlike pursue the external pleasures. And so they fall into the snares of the widespread death. But the wise do not desire anything in this world. No objects. Having known what is eternally immortal in the midst of all non-eternals. See, when we have forgotten our divine nature, that's called ignorance, avidya. This avidya manifests itself in our mind as desires. Prompted by these desires, our mind tells the organs, sense organs, to run outwardly. The world of the objects. And in order to get these objects, what do? The karmas. Actions. So that's why this ignorance, desires, and the actions. Altogether, what are they called? Knots of the heart, Hriday Granthi. Ignorance, desire, and actions. It's a technical term. Hriday Granthi. So it is the ignorance in the plane of the intellect which gets transformed into desires in the mind. And again, it is expressed as actions in the outer world. They're all connected. Higher the ignorance, more the desires, and more the actions. I'm not talking about selfless actions. Just ordinary actions. Majority of them are just selfish or self-centered, for me and mine. So it is the set of knots that causes the actions. And human beings, in order to reap the results of the actions, is compelled to take various new forms. Right now, we are in a human form. Last time around, which form we are in? Or next time around, which form we will be in? We don't know. So Hriday Granthi is the same. Forms changes. And each time we change the form, before that, there is a death. So in these first two mantras, we have a clear indication of two great obstacles that stand in our way to the realization of the self. It is so close to us, our real, who we are, our Savroop, that's what we are, but we don't know because of these two obstacles. First obstacle in the previous verse, he mentioned the natural tendencies of the sense organs to run outward. And when it goes outwardly, all our attention, all our energy leaks out through these senses. And the second obstacle in this verse, he says, the desire for enjoyment of the objects of this world and the next. This desire. And majority of us belong to this type of existence, unfortunately. We don't want to reach towards the highest standards of spiritual perfection, even though it is there for all of us. And that's why he's calling us children, Bala, ignorant. Fail to recognize the possibility of an existence greater in scope and diviner in contents. It is there. We can reach, but we don't want to reach. Ultimate satisfaction can come only from the eternal, actually. That's why no matter how much we achieve in this finite world, we are always hungry for more. So man can be satisfied only with the eternal, because our own nature is eternal. Finiteness always despairs a human being. Seeking the infinite, while we have not looked at our ignorance, we keep on exhausting ourselves among the sense objects. This toy, that toy, this place, that place, this body, that body. So that's why Lord of Death over here in this great Upanishad is declaring that such childish people who have not come to an adult's discrimination, because only adult can discriminate, the child cannot discriminate. That's why in a family also, adults are supposed to guide the children, not the other way around. And a child will fall ultimately into the fruits of delusion, with the widespread snares of finiteness. And that is the death he's talking about. And in contrast to this, the wise people who live a life of sleepless discrimination and knowledge. They are very vigilant about this discrimination. And what is the discrimination? Knowing the difference between the real and the unreal. Knowing the difference between true and the false. Naturally, when your discrimination has reached to that level, as Vivek has reached to that level, you will escape from the suicidal urges of a deluded mind. Okay, remember that. These wise people, they do not covet the unstable. They don't want to waste their precious time, precious energy, precious human life to collect the perishable. They don't run after the finite sense objects because they know they want nothing but infinite. That is a goal, and this is what they go after. And that is the irresistible urge to attain that, which is called mumukshutvam. So the inner enemy is what? The ignorance, desire, and action. So the wise people, through intelligent control of their actions, earn for themselves a state of desirelessness. And in the state of desirelessness, there is naturally end of ignorance. When you don't give more air, the fire will extinct. See, just like a candle is burning, you put a cover on top of it, what happens to the flame of that candle? Even if the wax is there, it will extinguish. Desires keep on giving more and more fuel to that fire. We got to cultivate this condition of desirelessness. So with the end of ignorance, knowledge comes. And this knowledge which we are talking about, it's not a theoretical knowledge. Theoretical knowledge was way before. Sometimes we just look at Gyan only, we think it's a theoretical. No, when we talk about the knowledge of the Gyan, only when the avidya has ended, the ignorance has ended, only then there's a Gyan. When we can see God everywhere, Brahm everywhere, Brahm, you are Brahm. Everywhere, nothing but Brahm. That is a Gyan. When a person says, I have the Gyan and you don't, that is not a Gyan. That is the highest Gyan. Because still there's a me and you. For a Gyani, there's no me and you. For Gyani, it's only us. So such Gyani are here returned inward, and they are termed as wise. When he says wise, he's talking about these Gyanis. So they naturally would never yearn for the fleeting sense objects of the world, because they are not children anymore. They are not ordinary deluded sansaris. And at the same time, these wise people will not detest anything either. Okay. Let's look at number 3. Yen rupam rasam gandham shabdan sparshan cha maithuvan eten ev vijanati kim atra parishishyate etat vaitat. Yen, by which? That means the Atma. Rupam, form. Rasam, taste. Gandham, smell. Shabdan, sounds. Sparshan, touches. Cha means and, methnan, sexual contact. Etain, by these. Ev means even. Vijanati, cognizes. Kim means what? atra, in this world, parishishyate remains, etat this, verily, tat, that. That means the Atma. We'll see the repetition of this etat vetat in several verses now. Because Nachiketa wanted to know about the Atma. And this Lord of Death, Yamrajji, that's what he's telling him, what this Atma is. Etat vetat. That Atma by which man cognizes form, taste, smell, sounds, and the sexual joys. What is there unknowable to that Atma in this world? This is verily that. He said, this is what you are asking about. So this sense organs cannot function without the Atma. And we know that. That power within each one of us, that is the seer behind the eyes. Okay? The listener behind our ears, the smeller behind the nose, the taster in the tongue, and the feeler in the skin. That is the Atma, that is the soul. And that's why, very appropriately, he's saying that there's nothing unknowable for the Atma in this world. Just like a God knows everything, Atma knows everything. You can hide from other people, you cannot hide from us. So Nachiketa's question was to the Lord of Death, what is that which is beyond dharam and adharam? You remember this also was the question later on. Beyond the cause and effect, beyond the past and the future. Very directly, the Lord of Death is answering that question. He says that is the life center in us, which controls, directs all our physical, mental, intellectual activities. This is the divine spark in us. You can call it self, soul, truth, reality, essence, whatever you want to call it. But this is what that is. Etat vetat. This is verily that. So very vital and dynamic presence of divinity within all of us. In our ordinary life, we indicate objects with the pronouns this and that. When something is near to us than the other, like the nearer one is always indicated by this. Okay, this is that. So over here, this he's talking about the Atma. This is that which you wanted to know. So something closer to us is this. Self, which is the core of our self, being the most intimate part in us, is very rightly indicated by the term this. Kim atra parishishyate. What else remains here? What is there in this world that remains unknowable by the self? Knows everything. So can you imagine? We want to know things. But once we know who we are, we'll know everything. So there should be more effort in this lifetime to really know yourself. Isn't it a waste that we want to know all the things which are that, but not this? So the pure knowledge needs to be realized. Okay, so that is the Atma you wanted to know, about which even gods are puzzled, because he said earlier, even the Devatas don't know. That's why he was giving him all kinds of temptations. Take that, don't ask this. But the student was had a different kind of a icha. and the caliber also. I'm going to do one more verse, then we'll stop. Swapanantam jagrit antam cha ubhau yen anupashyate mahantam vibhum atmanam matvaha dhira na shochati. Swapan antam, end of dream. Swapan is dream, antam means end of dream. Jagrit antam, objects of waking state. Cha means end, ubhau, both. Yen, by which, anupashyati, perceives. Mahantam, the great. Vibhum, all pervading. Vibhu word is for God. Vibhu, all pervading. Atmanam, the Atma. Matva, having known. Dhira, the wise person. Na shochati, grieves no more. Shochati means grieves. He by whom the end of dream as well as waking is perceived. That all pervading great self, I am. Knowing this, the wise grieves not. So over here, Lord of Death is elaborating upon the greatest significance or even the practical application in life of the knowledge of Atma in us. There is a sufficiently broad hint as to the mental state, the physical condition, intellectual attitude of a seeker who has grasped this true great knowledge, who knows what his identity is. His identity is nothing but that real factor, that pure consciousness that lie in him. He's calling that person a Mahatma, great and the noble, intelligent. He knows that Atma is the illuminator of our awareness of the waking state during the periods of our wakeful existence. And even when we are sleeping, the same sort of light is making us see the dreams also, dream world, Swapan. So Swapan Antam, so during the dream also, during the wakefulness also. Because when we are dreaming, what are we seeing? Objects, objective world. Every day we see the dreams. And this dream world, where does it exist? It exists only inside us. Since we see them, they are the objects. And in order to see something, we need some kind of a light. Where is that light coming from? From the Atma. This is the point he's trying to make over here. So in the wakeful state also, in the dream state also, one and the same consciousness illumines for us all the time. Waking state and lighting up the dream state. So the goal of life, the highest achievement of human beings, is to get himself completely detached from the false identifications with his body, mind, and intellect, and come to rediscover this divine spark. This is what he's saying. And having realized this divine spark, this factor, this truth, he says the realized saint grieves no more. If we look at the things we grieve for, they are the finite things. We start grieving. I had it, it has been taken away. That's a grieving. It was with me, it's gone. So sense of limitations is the mother of desires in the human heart. So desires give us nothing but sorrow, and that sorrow is the grief. If the desires are fulfilled, still there is a sorrow because we want more or somebody else has more. Or if they don't get fulfilled, of course, we got the sorrow right there. So desire can rise only when there's a sense of imperfection in us, incompleteness in us, because that's what the desire is. I don't feel complete. I think I should have something to complete myself. And wise person feels complete. No more desire. So when a perfect human being who has ended all his misunderstandings about himself has come to the knowledge that he is the supreme awareness in himself, that is the absolute sense of perfection. No more desires for anything in the world of the sense objects. Such a perfected one is truly a God-man on this earth. That's why he's calling them wise. Okay, so we'll end it over here today and have some discussion, then meditation. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishishyate. Om Shanti 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 Om. Thank you very much.